We just had a practice member that was here that was battling cancer, and the last time we met 2 months ago, she was having serious heartburn. So I told her, I said, carrots are a natural antacid. And so whenever you got heartburn, indigestion, just gnaw on a little carrot, nibble on it. And she told me yesterday, she said, like, my heartburn's gone. Wow. Indigestion's completely gone.
Welcome to the Miracle Academy. This is your host, Scotty Cooper, and this is where miracles are expected. Welcome to the Miracle Academy podcast. My name is Scotty Cooper, and I'm the host. Today I've got my dad here, Dr. Cooper. He and I run Cooperstown Chiropractic in Southern California. He has been on the podcast before, so this is the second time guest. And today we wanted to talk about a few different things from kind of building off our last episode. And we wanted to talk a little bit about, different things that families could do at home, right? Ways to keep your whole family healthy, and a lot of like tips and tricks that we could have that you and I have known and done forever. I mean, you taught me.
Right.
So just to kind of go through a lot of those is really the purpose for today.
Right. So we come to find that there's a lot of people that ask, how can I do this myself? Mm-hmm. And I think that the more that we can empower them through different foods and knowledge and techniques, the better we can make somebody.
Right.
Yeah.
I think one of the stories you told me about was how my grandmother would have rice water. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. All right. So essentially, when grandma was around, bless her soul, if one of the kids got sick, she'd go out in the backyard and she'd pick like leaves and bark and she'd boil them and she'd make them eat it. I'm going like, oh gosh, grandma, what's the science behind this? But then as I started really studying the science, I'm like, oh dang, she was right. So that was always kind of one of the fun things. But so rice water, so let's start there. So in third world countries, when people have nausea or they're vomiting or they're having diarrhea, what they'll do is make rice water. And how you make it is you make white or brown rice and you boil it. But you boil it just like you're making rice, but you boil it for about 5 or 6 minutes and take like a coffee cup and scoop some of the water out. But the starch that's now in that water will actually bind all of those things in the intestine and real effectively push all that stuff out. So an easy home remedy to resolve diarrhea, nausea, vomiting is rice water. Now, on the other hand, what happens when you have loose bowels? Well, so now we're going to use sauerkraut juice. Sauerkraut juice. So what you do is you buy this, I would say an organic, bottle of sauerkraut, and you want to strain the sauerkraut itself out. You can eat that later. It's fermented. It's great for you. But you want to take the juice, and you take the juice and you drink the juice, and you have to lay down for 3 hours afterwards. But in 3 hours, it will literally stop loose bowels. It'll stop diarrhea. And very, very effective.
Wow.
Yeah.
I remember us learning about that, or I remember Grandma making the rice water for me as a kid. That's awesome. What's some more things that we see pretty often here?
Well, one of the ones in one of your podcasts, you had one of the moms that was talking about, what do moms know and do? And she was talking about one of the things she learned from us that she loved was that when one of her children fell and hit their head, what's the first aid to that? So what we understand, you have to kind of think through the physiology a little bit. What we understand about the skull is that there's sutures, and sutures are where the brain and the skull bones actually attach together. Mm-hmm. Now, years ago, they used to think that those were solid and like they were unmovable, but now we know they're very fluid and they're very movable. Mm-hmm. If what you did was you remove that bone, what you would see on the inside, you'd see like this cartilage that's formed, almost like how the cartilage of your ear is really specifically formed. It's formed to be able to move the cerebral spinal fluid appropriately. It's formed to like keep all the different components of the brain in place. But the thing is that when you have this head trauma, many times you impact, and what you're doing is you're now changing the brain on the inside, because now what you did is you just put this physical force on the outside. We find something very similar to this in childbirth. So when a child is born vaginally, what'll happen is their head will be mouse-shaped. But then as soon as they start breastfeeding, the action of sucking pops those bones back. So the first aid to a child or an adult, somebody that hits their head, is actually sucking something thick through a straw. It's like a smoothie. Mm-hmm. Now, one of the things we want to be careful of, we don't want to do like, a McDonald's shake, right? Right? We don't want that sugar overload. But if we did like, a Jamba Juice green smoothie or something like that, that would be dynamite.
Wow.
The green part, let's talk about that for a second. The dark green leafy vegetables help us create this chemical in our body we use called glutathione. Glutathione is one of the most powerful antioxidants that we have. But glutathione is also what builds the blood-brain barrier. So when we're concerned about like an impact that could have damaged the blood-brain barrier, when concerned about like an impact like a concussion, glutathione or dark green leafy vegetables are critical. Mm-hmm. On that same thought, there's medications that actually punch holes in that blood-brain barrier. Mm. And the most common is acetaminophen, which we commonly find in Tylenol. Mm-hmm. And then this is kind of a challenge as well. Sometimes when a child is scheduled for a vaccine, a nurse the day before will tell the mom, have the child take Tylenol the day before, and that'll minimize the fever. And the concern we have about that is that now, because that breaks the blood-brain barrier, we got a higher potential of toxic things getting in the brain that aren't supposed to be there. So our reaction to that would be, I wouldn't do that. I would rather you do like a green smoothie, empower that blood-brain barrier. That way the child's better protected.
Got it.
Yeah.
What's another thing that the dark green leafy vegetables are good for that people commonly associate with more dairy products?
Well, we also seen the commercial, milk is good for the body, mm-hmm. right? And we understand that there is a great deal of calcium that's in dairy products. But the problem is, because it's an animal protein, it's bound inside that protein. Mm-hmm. So what our bodies literally have to do is pry this thing open to get to the calcium. Mm-hmm. But the problem is, the amount of calcium that could potentially be there, it takes more calcium, because it requires calcium to open these bonds. It takes more calcium to break it open than what could possibly be in there once it's opened.
Wow.
So every time we're consuming dairy, we're literally at a calcium deficit. Mm-hmm. It's costing us more than what we're getting. Mm-hmm. So your question was, where then does our best source of calcium and magnesium, potassium, all the minerals we want to keep in balance, where do they come from? Dark green leafy vegetables. Now, every kid that's sitting in the background watching his mom watch this podcast is going like, gosh darn it, no, not broccoli, not spinach, no mom, kale. Kale's devil's food.
So what's a good way around that for kids that don't like that? They just got to do it.
I don't know. I don't know what you're thinking of.
Yeah. Well, I always remembered we had a practice member that has a child that's battling autism, and the way she got him to eat.
Oh, that was a great story. Go ahead, tell.
So this young boy, all he wanted to have was mac and cheese and chicken nuggets. And that's kind of a thing we see with a lot of kids that have autism.
Right. Why the chicken nuggets? Do you know the reason why?
I think it's because it's coated in sugar.
Exactly right. Coated in sugar. What's one of the most addictive substances there is in the whole wide world?
Sugar.
Right. And once you consume, let's say, a teaspoon of sugar, how long does that negatively impact your immune system?
I can't remember. I know
12 to 16 hours.
Okay. That's wild.
So yeah, that's a bad choice.
Yeah.
French fries, same game. How do you get them golden brown? You cut them, you dip them in sugar first, and then when they fry them up, they're golden brown.
Yeah, so this young boy, he would have mac and cheese and chicken nuggets. And the mom was like, okay, well, I'm trying to get him to eat other stuff. And one of our other doctors said, oh, well, just don't feed him and he won't eat. And eventually he'll want to eat. And she's like, well, that's okay, but it's now been like 6 or 7 days and he hasn't eaten anything. So she had to come up with another way to get her son to eat. what she told us was that she kept doing the mac and cheese and chicken nuggets while he was still, in that phase. But what she did is she put one little piece of broccoli on his plate. And all she told him to do was just to look at it. And for a couple of days, all he had to do was look at the broccoli on that. And then 3 days later, she said, okay, what I want you to do is take your fork and pick up the broccoli, and I want you to kiss the broccoli. And so he would do that for another 3 or 4 days. Got him used to doing that. And she said, okay, now I want you to take a little bite of the broccoli. And he did. And then he started kind of changing everything. And she started doing this with all other kinds of vegetables. Now this kid has fermented vegetables. He's got all greens. He's got all really good grass-fed meats and stuff. And what's crazy is he doesn't ask for mac and cheese and chicken nuggets anymore.
No.
It's just what they've been able to train him to do.
Yeah. Motherhood is sometimes brilliant. Most times it's brilliant. Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, that was a pretty amazing story.
Yeah. Let's go on to things like ear infections. So we actually did this one time on an airplane with one of our staff. We were flying to a conference, and she ended up with an ear infection on the plane. Do you remember what we dripped into her ear?
It was lemon juice?
It was lemon juice. The flight attendant, to give us a fresh lemon, would just turn her head to the side like this, squeeze 4 or 5 drops of lemon juice into her ear, let it sit there. The citric acid will kill that bacteria, and as long as there's no perforation in the eardrum, it's completely safe. And then turn your head and drain it out. Her ear infection was gone in a couple of minutes.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, that makes me think of another story of when you were on an airplane. And I don't know if we shared this last time. I can't remember.
I don't think we did.
Okay. So I'd love to share that story.
All right.
I know you like telling it.
I do like telling it. So what Scotty is coming to is how I saved a plane with licorice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know you're going how did Dr. Cooper save a plane with licorice? So Scotty was playing college football up in Oregon, and so my wife and I would fly up there every weekend to go to his games. And we had played with when we wanted to leave, whether we want to leave game day in the morning or the night before. And this particular flight was on the same day as the game. But when we'd land, we'd only have a certain amount of time to get right to the field and the game would start. And so we really didn't want to miss any of the game or any of the pregame thing. So we're really kind of on a tight schedule. So with that in mind, we're on the plane. And just so you know, I'm in the very last row. The very last row. And over the intercom was, is there a doctor on the plane? Now, just for you at home, if you ever hear that on a plane, that means somebody's dying or somebody's born. It's one or the other. There's really no in between. So I hear that. My wife instantly, boop, push the button. So the flight attendant walks up and he goes, are you the doctor? I go, yeah. I always like to pretend he said, well, what kind of doctor are you? I'm a good one. A smart one. I didn't say that. So anyways, he said, Doc, we have this emergency going up in the front of the plane. We need your help. And I said, all right, well, why don't you go see what's going on and let me know, and I'll do what I can. So he walks to the front, and he comes back a couple minutes later and goes, yeah, Doc, we really need you. Would you go up to the front? Now, meanwhile, they had made an announcement. They said, ladies and gentlemen, there is a problem going on in the front. Laboratory, the bathroom up there, please don't come forward, use the back bathroom, So here I am, I get up from the last row and I'm walking forward. After, of course, it was just announced, don't come forward, right? And as, I'm walking, people are looking up because, they're oh, who's this guy, right? So I get maybe 10 rows from the front. The flight attendant that's attending to the front of the plane starts waving her hands like this. Sir, you must return to your seat, sir. Please return to your seat immediately, sir. I said, I'm the doctor. She goes, we don't need a doctor. You need to return to your seat. I'm okay, great. So I turn around. You talk about the walk of shame. Everybody's idiot, sit down, buddy Steve, buster. So I sit down and I look at my wife and I go, don't ever do that again. A minute later, the flight attendant that was in the back of the plane that asked me to go up comes back with the co-pilot. right? Now, this is after 9/11, so co-pilots don't leave the cabin. They don't open that door. And he was standing there. And he's like, Doc, we need you. I'm like, dude, I just got scolded in front of the entire plane up there. I'm like, I'm not doing that again. And the guy goes, well, I'll escort you. Like, okay, Frank. So we go back up front, and that flight attendant from the beginning of it, they were like a little growl look, right? So there's this poor little guy sitting on the toilet. They got his shirt off, and he's got like this, the muscle man t-shirt kind of. They got his pants around his ankles. He's got these boxer shorts on, and there's pink vomit everywhere, right? And I look at the EMT, and the EMT says he's having a struggle with his blood pressure. His blood pressure went to 60 over 0. Like, oh, that's a problem, right? So I said, well, what's his name? And his name was Hans. I go, Hans, are you on blood pressure medication? He says, oh, yes. I go, oh, where's your blood pressure medication? He goes, in my luggage. Oh, okay. Where did you start and he had a distinct accent. Where did you start your journey from? Oh, we live in Germany. Oh, so you flew from Germany? He goes, yes, we flew from Germany to Los Angeles, and then from Los Angeles we're going to Portland. I'm like, oh. And I said, and how long has this journey been? He goes, oh, it's been about 17 hours. And I go, so have you had your medication in that time? He says, no, it's in my luggage. I'm like, okay, identification of the problem. So I said, have you eaten anything? He goes, yes, I had pink yogurt. I'm like, oh, yeah. I see that, right? Kind of matched my shirt. It's a good thing I wore this shirt, right? So I instantly started, so now in the same time, the captain calls back. So the co-pilot goes back into the cockpit. And then the captain calls back on the phone, and he asks to talk to me. And he says, Doc, have you assessed this situation? I said, yes, I'm looking at it right now and see what I can do. He says, all right, well, I've got the medical staff, the ground medical crew online, and we've got a drop dead time of about 3 minutes before I have to divert and land the plane. Now, immediately when that came up, I thought, wait a minute, you divert and land the plane, we offload this passenger, who knows how long it's going to take for us to get back in the air. I'm missing the game. I'm fixing this in 3 minutes, right? That's just what's going to happen. It was selfish, but I did it, right? So I said, he says, I said, what's our drop dead time right now? He was like, 2 minutes, 45 seconds. Okay, give me every second. He goes, okay. So he hangs up. So I started doing some work on him, and what I identify with this fellow is that his adrenal gland, which makes adrenaline. Adrenaline is your fight or flight. It's how you handle stressful situations. But the adrenaline is the dynamic part of blood pressure. And I discovered and identified that is what was going on. So when people have like really low blood pressure, a lot of times it's an adrenal issue. So an adrenaline. So I was thinking to myself, gosh, what could I naturally use to boost adrenaline? And boost the adrenaline? I thought, licorice. I go, licorice. So I turned to the good flight attendant. I go, what's the chance that somebody on this plane has licorice? And he goes, we sell boxes like with snacks that got licorice in them. I'm like, dude, get me one. So he rips open this box, gives me the licorice. I give it to Hans, chew this up. And he's looking at me, the paramedics looking at me. Like everybody's like looking at me like, what's this guy doing, right? So this guy starts chewing up the licorice, right? You're gonna check his blood pressure. And the guy looks at me and goes, it's like 100 over 60. I'm like, give me the captain. And so the other guy calls back, Cap. He goes, what's our drop dead time? He goes, we've got about 1:40. I'm like, perfect. I'm almost got this done. He's like, what? He goes, hold on. And then captain goes off, but I can hear him. And he goes, flight medical. And we have a doctor on board, and we're he's getting this under control. We might continue. What's our drop dead time? And they give it to him. Well, you're gonna have to land. You're gonna divert it like 1:30 now, or whatever it was. He goes, okay. And he comes back and he goes, we got 1:27. right? Because it's like time's ticking away, right? Give him another one. So Hans, you got to eat this really quick, buddy. Please help me. And so we give him another piece of licorice. Hans chews it up. I check. Yeah, so the EMT checks his blood pressure. Checks it. Looks at me, shocked. Is 120/80. Perfect. I go, that's good. Give me the captain. Captain, got it done. You got it done? I go, I got it done. He's like, that's amazing. Hold on. And he goes, flight medical. He goes, we've got the situation under control. We're going to continue on to our journey, our destination. He goes, please have, medical crews standing by. And they're like, right. And he goes, Doc. He comes back to me. That was the most amazing thing I've ever experienced. I've been flying for 25 years. I've never had something like this happen. He goes, is there anything I could do for you? I said, yeah. He goes, what? I go, you know those cool little wings that you wear? He goes, yeah. I go, I want a pair of those. He goes, I am going to personally pin those on you when we land. I go, perfect. Right? So then we hang up, and then I look at the nasty flight attendant. I go, clean this guy up, put his clothes back on him, and don't treat people like that again. And she was like, totally like, So I walked back to my seat. So when the plane landed, the captain came on the thing and says, ladies and gentlemen, you realize we had this emergency. We're going to have emergency crew come and escort our passenger off. Please to remain in your seat. Dr. Cooper and his wife, would you please escort the patient? So now I'm in the back of the plane, I'm walking forward. Hey, I get to get off first. Da, 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 da. And the guy's like, hey, here's your wings. I'm like, sweet. So yeah, that was my saving a plane with
saved
licorice.
a plane. It's fun how many times we've been able to say that at different, nutritional conferences and stuff.
Yeah, it's really great. And people are like, what kind of licorice did you use? Dude, it didn't matter. It was licorice, right? But, let's talk about licorice because that's important. If you're a person that battles high blood pressure, licorice is probably not a good choice for you because it is going to boost your blood pressure. However, especially in this COVID time, in about 2017, there was research that was put out on in the New England Journal of Medicine, and they showed where the acid that comes from licorice, it's called like glycyrrhizic larva. It's a weird name, but that literally will stop SARS and COVID too. And so we've noticed that in our practice members that have tested positive and have gotten sick with COVID, we use a licorice-based product and like they're done in 2-3 days. Mm-hmm. I mean, our current statistics, if we can just play with that, is since this happened almost a year ago, we've had 75 members test positive, get sick. Nobody's been hospitalized. Nobody's died. We've had one person that had an 11-day long fever. We've had 2 people that have a 7-day long fever. We've had 2 that had a 4-day long fever. Everybody else was done in 2-3 days, mm-hmm. right? But we're feeding them with what they need so that this can happen. The other, power to chiropractic and just boosting the whole innate and adaptive immune system is that of the 400 to 420 people that come every single week to get adjusted, only 8 of them have gotten sick.
Right.
So, but what we did was we looked at how do we keep their immune system strong? How do we induce things like licorice into like their supplement, and as long as they don't have high blood pressure, it's working phenomenally.
Right. Another thing that you and I have used multiple times is when we were at a restaurant and felt kind of yucky in the stomach, was carrots. So can you talk a little bit about that? Yeah,
as a matter of fact, we just had a practice member that was here that was battling cancer, and the last time we met 2 months ago, she was having serious heartburn. Mm-hmm. So I told her, I said, carrots are a natural antacid. And so whenever you got heartburn, indigestion, just gnaw on a little carrot, mm-hmm. nibble on it. And she told me yesterday, she said, like, my heartburn's gone. Wow. Indigestion's completely gone. So that was pretty cool. So yeah, carrots are a natural antacid. So carrots are a great way to offset indigestion. Now, you go to the doctor, you're going to get something like Tagamet, mm-hmm. or omeprazole or Pepcid or Prevacid. Mm-hmm. And where those are utilized for getting rid of the excessive stomach acid, the problem that they cause is they also stop your liver from detoxifying poisons. So long-term usage of those actually leads people into cancers because the poisons that their bodies have in them are not being broken down. So carrots are a significantly safer choice. And then the other thing is, if we think about foods, when we get pink eye, conjunctivitis, we use a potato. So we take a raw potato, we peel it like you're peeling, a potato, but you grate it like you're grating cheese, put it in a gauze or maybe like cheesecloth, put it on the eye, and it's an astringent. So what it actually do is it'll pull those toxins out. And it's crazy because within about 5 minutes, the potato looks nasty, but it pulls all that infection out. And most of the time, we can get rid of pink eye within maybe a day or two at most, if we use that 3 or 4 times in a day.
I remember doing that too. Actually,
Yeah.
I think it was the night before my college graduation.
Oh, yeah, it was.
I had just a weird freak thing with my eye.
Yeah.
And we did the potato and it was fine.
Yeah.
Are there any other things that you can think of off the top of your head that are other like food related things like that we use?
Well, the thing is that, God always left clues, and this is what we talk about. And there's certain foods that look like the organs that they're going to help. And so like when you think of like holding a strawberry, and a strawberry is very much shaped like a heart. So the red part of the strawberry gives us this chemical called lycopene. And lycopene is what we use to prevent heart disease and recover heart disease. On that line too, there was a great bit of research that was done, probably 10 to 15 years ago, on essential oils. So the fats that come from like fish. And we always want to buy a pure one. So probably don't want to necessarily go to Costco to buy them.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, they showed 1,000 milligrams of oil, so that's 1 gram per day for 90 days, reduced the risk of heart disease by like 90%.
Wow.
That's incredible. So yeah, fish oil for heart disease, strawberries for heart disease, blueberries, right? So blueberries look like the pupil of your eyes. So blueberries have the phospholipids in there that fix the retina. So visual and eye disease is repaired by blueberries. And so, if you're a person like, wow, I really don't like blueberries, then, we can use a tablet. When they concentrate blueberries together, they call it bilberry. And so bilberry would fix eyes. And the other one that I want to talk about is about beets. Now, most people don't really like beets, and what they're familiar with is like pickled beets. But beets are the food that was given to us to fix a gallbladder. So when people can't digest fats, when they become really gassy and bloated, when they have anything with oil in it, beets are what we would use to add to the diet, and maybe in a salad or cooked if you want to. But that's a great choice. On that thought as well, remember that beets are red, and so when you start eating them, your bowels turn red, so you're not bleeding, right? You're just eating beets.
Got it.
And on that thought as well, when we're just thinking about, gosh, I have a grandma that has a gallbladder condition, or I have an auntie that's got a gallbladder condition, so I want to share this critical data with them. I want to remind you that if you eat something like an avocado or coconut oil or fish, those oils are so unsaturated, so easy to break down, that your body will break it down today. But if you wanted to celebrate by stopping and getting, French fries or something deep fried, that vegetable oil, that peanut oil, that canola oil, that literally takes your body 142 days to break that down. Right? So yeah, people celebrate by having a donut, but you got to understand that donuts can be stuck in you for like the next several months. So, you got to make sure that's the choice you want.
Right.
Yeah.
Awesome. I think there's a lot of pearls of wisdom in there, and I always like hearing the story of when you saved a plane. So that was cool.
Yeah, baby.
So for those that want to hear more or are interested, we are doing a guide that it's like a foods that heal guide.
Yeah.
That's gonna have a lot of this information in it, and you can find a lot of.
And then the cool thing is, what we did is we set up with like the professional nutrition companies a way that you can actually, you know, as a person that maybe isn't a practice member, that they can actually go and find those products and order those utilizing our credentials.
Right.
So what's it, Cooper?
We could link it.
Oh, let's put the link.
It'll be on there.
Yeah. There you go.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for being on the Miracle Academy.
You're
Great
welcome.
job. You know, our first second round guest.
Yeah, there you go.
Did awesome.
Thank you.
So thank you so much for watching today. This is Dr. Ken Cooper and Scotty Cooper with the Miracle Academy, where miracles are expected.